Welcome to Shana Investment Africa fam. We are here today with one of our previous guests, Shantae Parker. Let them know.
Hey,
However, today's talk is going to be a little bit different than the last talk that we had, because Shantae has, you guys have always heard me say it over and over again. The future is female. This is where it's at. And part and parcel of the future being female is the recognition of one's own self. And how does that self work within the constructs of your life, your work life, personal life, universe, where all your settings, but most importantly, being able to make the choices for your life the way you see your life fit. And it's definitely harder than just to say it. It's definitely harder than that, especially when we are living in cultures, especially on this side of the world, where, really doing it in the right way. And you're supposed to do this at this age, this at this age, this at this age. Especially for women, it could be a little burdensome and it can be very overwhelming. And so sometimes we forget that we have choices in this life and we have got choices in the way in which we want this life to look. And so today's topic of conversation is really about freedom, about choice, and in specific within the area of motherhood. There are a lot of us, like myself, seasoned ladies, where we are single, bilingual, ready to mingle. And maybe we had thoughts of wanting to be a mother, or to raise children, however it is that comes about in your life, because it comes about in so many different ways. But sometimes we are so scared, right? We get really, really scared to make those choices and to do all of that. So without further ado, and let me just go on and set myself to the side and let's talk. Shantae, let them know, just give them a brief little outline about you, just in case if they didn't watch your other video, and then let's kind of get into this topic.
yeah, sure. Hey, hi, y'all. I'm Shantae, Chanta. I like to say it's pronounced sachet, Shantae, like RuPaul says. I am a trained lawyer, advocate, public defender for many, many years now, an executive coach, helping the heads of organizations that do great work, do better work, and be more effective in their management. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm from the South, from Georgia. Lived a lot of different places in the United States, in New Orleans, in Harlem, and Brooklyn, and now I'm living in Detroit.
All right, let's just get right into it. Okay, let's get right into it. So, like, if y'all watched our other video, I've been knowing Shantae for a really long time.
Yeah.
And I can definitely say that in our friendship, we have definitely moved through different seasons. We lived in New York for pretty much the same amount of time. And then I bounced, she bounced. And now, we maintain our friendship via, fiber optics, thank for the internet and all these other apps, right? So, Shantae, you're a mom.
Yeah.
So talk to us about how you came to that decision. And so let me just go ahead and preface this. Actually, no. Tell them a little bit about yourself in terms of like are you single? Are you with a partner? What is that looking like? And then we'll talk about how you got to your decision.
Yeah, so I am single. I'm ready to mingle. If anybody's interested, put it out there.
Look, hit her up. Look, she ready to mingle, y'all.
Yeah, I am single. I'm a mom. My kid is 15 months. And what should I say? I think that, Rita just mentioned before we got started that many years ago, I was saying I would never have a kid by myself. And here I am. And so I think part of the lesson is never say never, because you done said never twice, as Most Def says. But also just keeping yourself open to what life has to offer. I think right now I'm in a season where a lot of things I thought I would never do, things I would never think, things that I always thought, oh, that wouldn't be me. Change is the only constant. And so keeping yourself open to the change that could come into your life and what could be is really, really important. So yeah, I don't know where to start. I think COVID for me was a big catalyst in terms of just kind of thinking about what I wanted for my life. And that time.
What was it? What was it about that? What was it about that time, right? Because reasonably,
Yeah.
you've always been a hardworking attorney. You've always been consistently making moves
Yeah.
in ways to further your personal goals of Black justice and really making people's voices who are not heard to be heard.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like we definitely used to talk about it all the time. Like my father is dead. And for me, I've always been very open to just having a baby by myself, right? Like I've watched my mom do without a man for so many years, basically my whole life, to be honest with you. So for me, my perspective on it was real different. And
Yeah.
I remember very clearly talking to you about it, and you were like, nope, nope, nope. If I ain't got no man, I'm not doing it. And in my mind, you had always wanted to be a mom. For me, I don't think it didn't really even sink into my head like maybe you might want to have a kid until I was probably like 33 or something. Okay, real talk. And even now, I'm kind of like, I don't know, man. Like this shit looks like a lot of work. You
It is
understand
a
what I mean? A
lot
lot
of
of work.
work.
And you're just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So talk to me about like, fine, now you've moved out to New York, but what was it about COVID, or what was it about in your present situation where now you were like, forget all the stuff that I've always been thinking about, that I've always been wanting for myself, where now you took the chance from saying, forget it looking how other people said, maybe COVID was the catalyst, to
Yeah.
now you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of have always been, I'm gonna do it, fuck it, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And so, but also there's the overlay of like, traditional, here's how you have to do it, here's the path. And so, I'm dating, meeting people, trying out relationships, trying to see if, I could find a partner who would be somebody who I
Which glove fit?
have, yeah, what glove fit, who I want to have a kid with. And I'm pretty courageous with my heart. I'm open to trying and trying again and failing and trying again. But at the end of 2019, actually, I had said, okay, you know what? Let me pause on the relationship because I keep bumping my head in a certain way. And so let me just focus in on myself. And then 2020 starts, and did a couple of trips in the beginning of 2020, and then COVID hits, and it's like you have to sit down. You got to be where you are, right? You're in Detroit. You got to be there, and you got to really figure out how you just survive and make it at that point. Because the big getting into COVID, we didn't know, like, what it was, if you got it, what would happen to you. Detroit was a place
Some people knew what
where,
it was, but that's
yeah,
another video. You know how I feel about that. Anyways, continue.
but Detroit was a place where Black people in general, in specific, a lot of Black folks died really early, young people. It was just a lot being here and seeing so many people pass away from COVID. And I had, if you watch the other video, I had reached the pinnacle of what I wanted to do in my career. So I'm sitting, doing my work from home, taking a lot of long ass walks, and just thinking about, okay, what is life? Like, what if we all die tomorrow? Those kinds of things, those kind of big questions. What else in my life do I want to do? What else do I want to achieve? And so motherhood was something I had, I had this like desire to do, but wasn't 100% sure if I could do it. So like, I don't know if that's really for me. Do I really want to do all of this work? Do I really want to be responsible for somebody 24/7? And in that searching time, I realized, let's take some steps. Let me just start taking steps toward it. And we'll see if the path continues to grow that way. And you could always just exit out. At any time, you could say, nope, never mind. That's the way I thought about it. So went more towards trying to see what my choices were in terms of being a mother, and just kept researching it and kept being like, well, how much do you want it? Are you sure you want to do it? Are you sure you want to do it? Are you sure you want to do it every step of the way? And it just kept being confirmed for me through the process that, yes, this is what I wanted to do. There was nothing else that made me as excited as that at that time. So that's what I did.
And when you were looking and when you were researching your options and all of that, did you like reach out to other people to talk about it, or was this much more of a personal like movement, or like what were you kind of do to be able to prepare yourself just to be able to get both sides of situations, right? Because it's a very different thing to, you know, go through this IVF process and go through that, because it's a very intentional thing, right? It's very different than just accidentally, oop, I got knocked up, boom, right? This is a very intentional and very money heavy road. So what kind of preparation did you do?
Yeah, I mean, to kind of back it up from the IVF, right? Like actually talking, I had a lot of friends, a good handful of friends who had kids in the last year or two before around this time of COVID, right? So talking to them about how they were doing, what it was really like, because they were in the thick of it. Talking to friends about, you know, would you consider being a co-parent or a person who's gonna help me in this process? Like talking to real live people about whether or not they would contribute. Looking at adoption, looking at all the different possible ways that I could be a mother. And as I kind of, you know, talk to this person about this option, for somebody to help me out, or talk to this person about adoption, it was just kind of like, okay, this is what I like about this. This is what I don't really like about this. This doesn't quite connect with me. And that was a way to sort of just kind of figure out all the different options that I had and which one was going to fit for me. I really wanted to have a bit of like, I didn't want to go through the process, like, because some people, when they're trying to have a child, it's a long process. And I was like, oh, please, I kind of want to one and done it. You know what I mean? And so what is the process that could be as close to giving me that sort of like, okay, as possible. And so IVF is in vitro fertilization, what's called, is one of the ways that you can like, and people do that many times and don't quite meet the mark. So, but that was my choice because it felt like it was going to be the most direct route to it.
Okay, so now you have come to this conclusion. During this time, are you asking permission from anybody to do this? Or did you have to find a way to give yourself the permission to do this?
Yeah, that, come on, therapist. You know, I think that part of you know, my journey was healing some of the ways in which I saw that I had been raised and my mom had been raised, and whatever I kind of got from that or didn't get from that, things I put on myself about whether I could do it, you know, because you kind of think, people tell you you're not going to be good in so many, they might not say it directly, but they'd be like, oh, you know, you're the smart one, you know, you know, you ain't really.
So you actually had people.
Yeah, I would be compared to people who were women who were single, like that's that's your lane, right? You're not, in so many words, they were basically saying to me, like, you know, that's not really what you could do. And yeah, so that kind of is like, okay, you internalize some of that when people tell you things like that, and you're like, well, yeah, maybe I am just the smart Oprah whatever type, and I shouldn't be a mom. I'll be the auntie in people's lives. And you feel that role for a lot of people, and so they're used to you being in that role, which is just natural. And so I think if you, as a individual person, woman, person who wants to be a mother, whatever you are, you've got to go inside yourself and say, what actually do I want? What do I believe I can do? And then go back out and just do it. And you kind of got to cut off and shut off what anybody else is thinking or projecting your way. And so COVID was a great vehicle for that, because I could just shut, you know, nobody's rolling up on me in Detroit. I could be with myself, walk with myself, think about it, go through all the scenarios in my head, build myself up and say, hey, actually, this is something I would like to do. I do believe I would be really good at this. I've mothered so many people in my life. I've mothered my clients, I've mothered my friends, I've been a great aunt. Um,
Girl,
and
right?
I can do this. So once you get to that place of like, yes, I actually believe, once you believe it, you'll see it. Right. That's what I think. I think you got to believe it first and then you'll see it. And so then I just kind of went on the path. And so I'm not, again, I was in my late 30s. So I'm not calling anybody to ask for permission. I may call and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And I think maybe a year or so before COVID, I think I had a conversation with my mom, just like, I'm thinking about becoming a mother in whatever way that looks like for me. Would you be able to come and like help me? And my mom, like, that's why I asked, because I know she's gonna tell me what the deal is. She was just like, I gotta work. And my mom is retired, but she works, part-time. But so for me, I was like, okay, get it, message received, that may not be something that I will get. And
How does that make you feel, right? Because reasonably, when we think about when we become moms, right? You're like, I can't wait for my mom to be a grandmother. She gonna be all up in this, and she gonna be all up on the baby and all of that.
yeah.
So now, when you have finally come to this decision and you are now bringing it to your mom, right? And how does that make you feel when she's like, "No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm
Well,
gonna be right where I'm at." How does that make you feel?
she had I have nieces who are like they were 17, 18, right? So she had kind of done the grandmother thing for them, and my mom had me when she was in her mid-30s. So it's kind of like you said, you want to have that. That's just a natural inclination that you want to have. I think it's a little disappointing, but also it was like, I knew and had a real understanding of, okay, I may not, I won't have that type of support. Where else can I find support? How can I build an intentional support system for myself in this process? And actually, I think it was good for me to do that, because I tend to be someone who can take care of myself, handle everything myself, really don't ask for a lot of help. But knowing that I couldn't physically do this by myself, I had to be like, okay, the weeks leading up to the birth, what am I gonna need? The weeks after the birth, what am I gonna need? And like intentionally asking people and saying, I need this from you, can you provide it? That was a newer experience for me, but it was what I needed to do, a good muscle to develop. So it actually was, I think, better than had I been partnered or had a mom who was able to come in, because I think it's just some unspoken assumptions and expectations when you may have that. And so to be able to, I think everybody who's going to be a new parent ought to be more intentional about naming what they expect or what they need versus assuming, because that's when it can get, I think, difficult and tough, because you assume that, hey, this person's going to show up in this way and you haven't communicated that. And that's where the arguments, I think, and problems could come in. So I think it was helpful for me to have to be intentional, have to make a schedule, have to tell people, hey, this is when I'm receiving visitors, this is when I'm not. And being real clear about the support that I needed and when you could step in and give it to me.
How did you figure out what that support needed to look like for you? What did you exactly do, right? Because sometimes you get a lot of people where they'll say like, I just need help. And it's like, you got to be more specific about that, bro. Like, you can't just say it under an umbrella and be like, somebody's going to be your, knight in shining armor, rock up. So how did you identify them? And then what were the steps that you enacted in order to get to that space where you're like, this is what that support has to look like?
Yeah, I had no idea. I talked to some friends to say, oh, okay, you're not going to be able to walk around the week or 2 or 3 after. Like, you literally going to be in the bed and somebody's going to bring the baby to you and take it away. So like birthing class taught me that. My friend told me that. And so I had a doula who The power
For
of
those who don't know what it
technology.
is,
Is a
for
doula
those
is
who don't know what
like
it is,
kind of a coach and support for you as a pregnant person, as a new mom, to sort of help you figure out what you're going to need, talk through, make plans. So yeah, they're like a coach type of person. And I found someone who was actually in California, in Oakland, and I met her, and we would do video chats once a week, and she would tell me, like, here's what you're gonna need. And I started with her before I even got pregnant. I was like, I want to get into better physical shape and have better nutrition. So she's a nutritionist doula, so she started helping me with the nutrition first, and then after I got pregnant, like, she would tell me things to do. You're going to start to feel this way at this point. And so she was the person who was telling me, okay, once you have the baby, here's the support you're going to need. And we made a plan and a visiting chart and all that sort of stuff. So she was really helpful to help me understand what I needed and come up with how to get it.
So you know what I kind of like about what you just said, and I think it's kind of something that can be utilized pretty much for like all things, right? We all have ideas, we all have plans, we have all of these things that we want to do, right? And sometimes what happens is, like, for me, I always say it's like in three phases. You've got your plan, you have your idea, you have your plan, and then you have the execution, right? And as you go down that level, you lose more and more people. And generally in that planning phase, you get a lot of people where it's like, because they don't know what questions to ask, they're kind of just floundering around, right? Where it's just like, I just need help. And you're like, whatever. So I like, actually, where in this situation, and this is something that can be utilized for any other situation, you sought out experts.
Oh yeah.
You sought out someone who has expertise in this area, right? So even though you're talking to your girlfriends who've been pregnant or whatever, that's fine, and that's going to be their own personal experience that they're telling you about. But the beauty of being able to use a coach, a professional, an expert, all of this, they don't have just their own personal experience, right? They have got all of their clients' experience, right? And that, because you have all of that, that's what's going to really be able to give you some of those parameters, right? Some of those boundaries where it's like, oh, okay, I never even thought about that, right? Because reasonably yourself, in the way in which you chose to get pregnant, it's different if you would have had a husband who was at home where y'all were talking about it, right? It's going to look different, right? He's going to have his little input, and it's like, I don't know about all that. So I actually really like that. And I think this is actually a valid point. And this is a point that can be utilized actually in every area. And in fact, what's funny is you are now a coach yourself, right? Because of the experience and the expertise you have gained during your work. And now people have to actively seek you out for your expertise. So I think that's actually a really valid point. And I like that. Yeah. So now, baby's here. I always call baby Twinny because we share the same birthday. Yeah. And so now that Twinny is here, how does it now look? Because Twinny has now passed that 1 year mark, right? Mm-hmm. And I think generally the first birthday parties is for the mamas. It ain't for that baby. It's right. For y'all. Because y'all you made it. You made it, girl. You done did it. Okay. Yeah. So now Twinny has passed her year mark. Mm-hmm. How does it look give us a little idea of like that now hindsight, reflection. Is there anything you would have changed?
That's a good question. Nobody's ever asked me that.
That's why we here, girl.
No.
Marinate on it.
No, there's nothing I would. No, that I just did. There's nothing that I would change. Like more than once a day, I just am like, dang, girl, you did it. You had this vision and you believed you could do it, and you did it, and you're doing it, and you're doing a really good job of it. So that is like, it's humbling to me a lot. And in so many ways my life has changed, and all things that I was like, wow, I never would have expected I would, have the kinds of changes that I've had, but I'm really
Give
grateful
us an example.
of them.
Give me an example.
My job, I changed jobs, right? Like I left my job that was kind of like the dream job to become a coach and do something different. I moved into a different space than what I had moved to Detroit into a space, and now I'm in a completely different neighborhood, different space. Now I like to go out every now and then, but I don't really need that anymore.
Well, that's also because that, we got to
Also,
run the streets
yeah,
when we was young
seasoned
too.
lady situation.
Yeah.
Also like, people say put yourself first and then everybody after. And I think having someone to take care of a kid, it really helped me even more focus on and do that and prioritize myself and her in ways and have boundaries that I didn't have before.
So let's kind of talk about that, because I think you are one of my few friends who I've had where I really enjoy how you take time for yourself. I really like it. Like, I have a neighbor who's here. Her child is 7 years old. She has never once left that child by himself. And I'm like, girl, 7 years? Like, hold on. So kind of give the people kind of an idea of when you're saying how you've kind of created these boundaries and how it is that you are prioritizing yourself first, right? Because I think sometimes we just assume it's like you're a mom, so now you're no longer your own person. Now, like for instance, here in Kenya, right? Once you have a baby, you are no longer known by your name. You are now known as the mom to the child, right? So before Twinnie, you were Shantae Parker. Now you are Mamaya Twinnie, right? Yeah. So forget Madam Parker. So in terms of, as we are talking about maintaining our sense of self as we progress in this, what are some of those boundaries that you have created for yourself that do you think other mothers should try?
Yeah. So I think for me, it was like, I have to be okay. If I'm not okay, then she's not gonna be.
Y'all ain't okay.
Right. So in the very beginning, it looked like having someone there who I could just go outside and take a walk, right? And like not being afraid to do that. And then it was like, okay, I need to sleep. And so getting her to sleep in a bassinet versus in the bed with me at a certain age, and then getting the bassinet into the room that I had for her, and then getting her into a crib where she could sleep there, just to have that physical space where I could sleep by myself. Because when you're sleeping with a baby in the bed, you're not really, you're kind of like,
not sleeping.
Stop, right? You don't want to roll over on them, and you're like, every little move they make, you're like moving around. So that's like the basic stuff that I would say. Co-sleeping is great. A lot of people all around the world do it. And also for me, I think that was a number one first thing that was really like taking care of myself, was to be able to have space where I could sleep by myself. And so getting her to be an independent sleeper, a good sleeper, is like, oh my gosh, she goes to bed at 7 on the clock works 7:30 if it's late, and she sleeps until 6. And that is a godsend for me. I would be if she didn't do that. And I think it was that diligence of like really being strong and saying this is for her good and for my good, versus like, oh my gosh, she's fine again, so that was being okay with that. I also read something that like kids retain maybe a third, or maybe it was like 60%, I don't know, some percentage of what they see and do and be, and that as long as they've got one strong attachment figure in their life, they're going to be okay. So it was like, okay, the year is 365 days. And so I don't have to be with her every day. What's 60% of that? I'm going to be at 80 to 90%, but you could give yourself some days where you're you. And so started by doing like, once every 2 weeks, go get a massage, go to the spa, planning little trips once a quarter where I would go and leave her I think the first time I left her, I went to New York for overnight for work.
How old was she? How old was she when you first
She
time you
was
left her?
4 months, I think. It was in November.
Mhm.
She was born in May. So I went for overnight. My cousin watched her. And then I was waiting for her to come in May. I was just like, I needed something to look forward to. So I booked a trip to Vegas to see Usher in December, like around the New Year. So it was something I was looking forward to. And I was like, okay, this is going to be good because you're going to be forced to leave this baby with somebody and go and have some fun. And so I was so glad that I had booked that back in May, because as we ended the year and Thanksgiving and going into Christmas, I was really excited to be able to go, and a good girlfriend of mine came and watched her. And I remember right before I left, I was like crying to my friend because I was just like so grateful to have the support that I could trust her to do it, that I was trusting myself to go, and that I had set that up for myself. So
I like how you said trusting yourself. That's a really important thought, right? So during all of this time, right? Because obviously it's hormones and all this other stuff.
yeah.
What's the self-talk in your head?
Um, like, you're good, you're okay, you're doing this, you're good at this. Um, there's just a lot of like love for myself and love for her. And so just that's what I talk to myself. That's the way I talk to myself. And one of my things that I say to myself is
So
hard, but you can do hard things. So, you know.
it is what it is. So when you were leaving, when you leave the baby and all of that, do you have friends who judge you?
I'm sure. People like, I don't come right out and say it, but oh wow, you're going. Wow, I haven't gone yet. It's like, but I just don't, like, all my life I've had that sort of,
Get off of me. Just get away from me.
and people
Off of
sometimes
me.
don't even realize that they are judging. Like, people don't even
Yeah.
realize, like, when people say, put that baby down, she could walk, that kind of thing. It's like, they don't realize that that is a judgment. It's like, I know she could walk. I just want to carry her. It's fine. Like, stop breastfeeding that baby. She's too long. I don't care. We're gonna do it until we don't want to do it.
I don't want to do it.
But I just have a lot more. First of all, that goes in and out one ear, because if I retained all of that, I would be crazy and angry and mean, and I can't be. So I have to filter it through, or just let it bounce off, number one. And also I have a lot more grace, and I have a lot of empathy and compassion for people. When I see those kind of projections, I just realize that that's what they were taught when they were a mom or whatever. That's what they heard. And that's not what I'm going to internalize, and they may be hurting themselves. So yeah.
So now that Twinnie is of this age, and you now have your girlfriends who also have babies who are this age and all of that, and this is totally an internal situation, but we just talking, when you see your other girlfriends who are like with babies the same age as yours, do you feel more blessed that you don't have a man around to harass you and you're able to do it how you want? Or is it on the other flip side where you're like, oh man, give me an idea. What do you think?
What I will say about in response to that is, I have a much better sense of, like, I want to be partner. That's why I said I'm single and I want to mingle. I'm mingling, right? But I have a much better sense of what kind of partner is going to work for me and what kind of partner I need. Are you talking?
No,
Okay.
no, I'm listening to you.
Okay. It was like going a little slow on my end, but so I know exactly what I need and what's not going to be helpful. And so yeah, I'm like, I'm good until I run across the thing that's going to be helpful and give me what I need. Being partner with somebody, you got to give, and you get something from them and all of that. So I'm at a place where I'm ready to give what needs to be given and what I can give, but I know much more clearly I'm a different dater than I was before and now, because I know what kind of support and help I need. And that's just kind of with anybody that's going to come into our lives, whether it's family, friends, partner, whatever. But so yeah, in that way, I am definitely grateful that I have me, because I know I'm a rider and I know what I'm gonna do and how I'm gonna show up. And I
It
just
goes
give
back to trusting yourself, right? It
oh
goes
yeah,
back to trusting yourself,
yeah,
right? Like
a
how
lot of love
trusting, right?
to
Yep.
people who may not have the kind of support that they would like, and hopefully they get it. And I'm grateful that I don't have to deal with that sort of stuff.
Would you do it again?
Like have another baby?
By yourself, solo again? Yep.
It feels like a lot to manage. I say to people that I enjoy being pregnant. I had a really pleasant pregnancy, but I would prefer to do it with a partner. So I'm not gonna never say never, because like I started this whole conversation with, so I'm just gonna say that I'm open to whatever is coming my way, but I know what kind of support I need if I'm gonna add anybody, baby, grown person to this is what we got going on right here. So yeah, it's a lot. It is a lot of work. It's not for the faint of heart. You can do it. Anybody can do it. But you got to just be aware that it's a lot of work, and you won't even know. Like people used to tell me, you're not gonna even, I can't even describe it to you. You're not gonna know. And I roll my eyes like, whatever. It's just a human being taken care of. But I get it now why people say that. Because there's just so much that you won't know until you experience it. But it's worth it if you want to do it.
Okay. So as we wrap this up, what would be 2 pieces of advice that you would give to a lady where she is, because I definitely have girlfriends right now where they have been wanting children their whole lives, okay? It wasn't even something that they came later. They have been wanting kids their whole lives.
Yeah.
And they are all older, and none of them are married, none of them are partnered.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that they are going to miss out on one thing only women can do, and they've always wanted to do it. And the thing is with this window is like, once you kind of passed it, this is a big regret on that regret list that you're gonna have, right? So what would be 2 pieces of advice that you would want to give to a lady where she wants to be a mother, she wants to have her own kids, but she's not partnered, and it does not look the way in which it's meant to look, or it has, everybody else tells you how it's supposed to look?
I would say that you let go of how you thought it was going to look. And that's your whole life, and including this piece of being a mother. Because what I know to be true is that every person I come across in this world is looking for some sort of meaningful connection with another person. Whether that's dating or this motherhood question, right? And so accept that that's what you want, and do the work to get to the place where it's the most important thing, and you're gonna follow through and do it, and let go of how you thought it was gonna look. That's gonna take some time, but letting go of how you thought it was gonna look, or what people are gonna say. I think women, we are sometimes very focused on how it's gonna look or how it looks to people, and just those people who commented on the IG are like, girl, did you see this, that, or the third? They in their own like
get them out of here. Get them out of here.
That they got something they would want to do as well, that they're not willing to like be brave and just do it. So just let go of all of that. And start to go down the path. Take the steps. Go to your doctor and just ask the questions. Ask a friend or whatever you need to do to just kind of take those steps toward it, and keep going. And you can always say no at some point. And don't bring. And then the second piece I would say is hold it sacred to yourself, and don't tell more people than you should. And that's usually, you shouldn't be telling people or
what does that mean?
don't let people in. Some things you're just gonna do by yourself that nobody else needs to know or have a window into that experience. And that is actually some of the most sacred stuff you can do, is stuff that you keep solely to yourself. And if you're going to ask somebody for advice, ask yourself, have they done what you wanted to do and they're happy and you would want to be in their situation, right? And if that's not the case, then don't ask them for advice. Like, everybody's going to want to tell you how to be a mom and all of that if they have kids. And it's like, great, love you, thank you, but you're not in a situation where I would want to be. So I'm actually not asking for your advice. I'm not discounting your experience, but I don't
But
need
I'm
advice. I'm good. Just
good.
trust yourself, and it gives you so much freedom, because then you're not beholden to anybody else. I listen, I had to get over that. I used to be somebody and still recovering, like, had to talk to this person, talk to that person, see how it hits, because I really wanted the validation from other people that, yes, what I'm feeling, what I believe is sounds right to them. And what I realized is not going to sound 100% right or correct to them, because they're not me. And so stop trying to get validation from everybody else and validate yourself. And sometimes that could mean not telling anybody what's in your heart and just going forward. And you're gonna have some people who are gonna not be as prominent in your life, and that's okay. It's hard, but it's okay. It's actually very freeing for you to have more space, because you're gonna need it. If you really want to do it, just do it. That's what really propelled me. A coach friend of mine was like, listen, I got this sister who wanted to do it and she waited and it's too late for her. So if you telling me you want to do this, do it. So that was one of the things that I heard from someone, to really do it, because I didn't want to regret it. And you can't get the time back.
Yeah, this is one of the few ones where it's like there is a real window for this, So I like this, right? I actually really like this, because the theme that I am getting from this conversation is truthfulness to yourself, right? Being able to really now really have this goal in mind, and this is a very big goal, right? Motherhood is a big goal. There's some people who should have never been mothers, where it's like, oh God, you shouldn't have bothered doing that. But if we're going to be doing this in a very intentional way, that there is a focus. And it does also, right, again, even though we're talking about motherhood, but it is interesting that some of these common themes that we are talking about in here can be utilized in every other aspect of ourselves, right? Being able to hold certain things that are close to us that has nothing to do with anybody else. Like, I am not asking your permission. If I'm coming to talk to you, it's because I value your opinion, but I am not asking you whether or not I can and cannot do it.
Yeah.
And I think that is, for me, the major theme for all things future is female, right? It is the choice to be able to do what you want, when you want, how you want, if you want. Right? Right?
Yeah, that's right. And to stop doing things that you're not comfortable with, and it's okay.
Yes.
If it doesn't feel right to you and you don't want to do it and maybe you did it for your whole entire life. You were the auntie that everybody leaned on. Have gratitude for that experience, and you could say tomorrow, I don't want to be that person anymore. People gonna be upset, and that's okay. But if you don't feel comfortable in that role anymore, it's okay to let it go. I see so many people, particularly women, who are just pour out so much for everybody else, and then they
never get nothing back.
depleted.
They'll never get nothing.
So whatever it looks like, whatever it is that's on your heart to do, whether it's being a parent or something else, figure out how to get to it. Because I mean, that's what really, if COVID didn't teach you that, there's so many things every day in this life that teach you that, you need to get to it, because you could die tomorrow.
Say that again. So on that note, I want to thank you for talking about this. I know this is a very personal issue. It's a very personal issue of how you get about it. But I do think that there are a lot of women who are grappling with this idea. I think there's a lot of women, especially women where you've spent, your whole 20s and 30s working and building this career and doing all of that. And now you focus on this, relationship, but now part of the relationship is motherhood. And now you get some men where they're scared. It's like, she want a baby tomorrow. And it's like, I do. Like I do, you know what I mean? And so this is I appreciate you taking the time to talk about this, but also I really appreciate that you are giving us real themes to think about, right? And really giving us an idea of like how it can look, and that it don't have to look like what everybody else looks like, right? And again, how you had said, what you plan for, that shit don't last, right? Like my mom was married, had some kids. She was not expecting for that man to die 2 years later. You get what I mean?
Right.
And so for me, that's what's always been important. Just do what you want, and everything else is going to line up how it's meant to line up. And so on that note, I know it's morning time where you are at, and I know you got to start your day. I'm about to wind down on my day. So TIA Marketplace, good people, welcome. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope this kind of made you kind of think about different things and see also just these themes that we're talking about to be able to utilize them in other parts of your life. Like, subscribe, comments below. Y'all already know what to do. And on that note, I'll talk to y'all later. Thank you, good people.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Madam Park.
All right.